This is how I got into public life. I was never looked into getting into publicity and this. This is just when you put yourself in the way to spread the word of Allah. People call you, says, come, maybe you can do something. Otherwise, I don't aspire to this microphone at all. But what's beautiful is it touches hearts when good things happen. In this center, you're doing fundraising tonight. Let me touch a little bit about the importance of these kinds of centers, particularly this Islamic House of Wisdom. And my respect to Sheikh Ilahi is present. I like him. I consider him very close to me as my brother. And I'm not here to praise anybody. But I see his dedication. There are not many people who will spend their whole lives to fight, to create environments for people to come and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever their motives are, at the end of the day, we are its beneficiaries. And whenever I come into this place, I always pray, Allah, protect this place. Yesterday, there was some vandalism that took place. It hurt me. I was in the car thinking, oh Allah, how can anyone vandalize the place of Allah? In the month of Ramadan too, this person, whoever's doing it, is not a human being. He's an ignorant, arrogant human being who can have the audacity to do this. It hurts. I don't care what anybody has to say. People say, oh, Dar al-Hikmah this. I say, I don't care. All these Islamic centers in our town here, all of them, I pray for all of their successes. You might say, this one verse is that. I say, there's no verses. There is a spread, there's an expansion. And each one, inshallah, will serve a different degree, to different times, to different communities. But let me give you a little explanation. It's about something that happened on this. This is not the only one, by the way. I have about 3 stories that happened in this Islamic center that really touched me. That's why whenever the Sheikh calls me, I can't say no. There's something special in all the Islamic centers, but there's something special that happened to me here. And tonight I want to dedicate this to this event. That when I came a few years ago to recite in the month of Ramadan, and I like this environment, I see people sitting, and mashallah, I see in my crowd people who are very wise, who are studying every word I'm saying. They're dissecting it. They come even afterwards and they say, this is what you say. I see what you mean. What about that? I said, excellent. Let me go home and read more on that. So tomorrow I can add more light to this discussion. I like that. This is what it is, this tawasaw bil haqq, tawasaw bil sabr. So I remember a few years ago I was speaking, and in the crowd there was a young brother who came. He happened to be a friend, a Christian friend. He's a Macedonian Christian. And he came because he's got some friends who are Muslims. And look at the importance of you and I, among my young brothers who are present here today, who were his friends, his role models. And look at the collection of things that happen. Every time I reflect on it, I say, subhanAllah, this is indeed the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it takes many things to come together into focus for one good thing like that to happen. That's why I'm very careful that all these institutions must survive. Every step we take has an interesting point that meets something that's so great, no wealth in the universe can take it away after that. That's why we strive. Believe me, people say, why are you striving here, striving? I said, I want that one moment where that star shines. I said, that's it. Now if I die, I have a reason to die. And we have no idea this is happening. No idea. Subhanallah. I came and spoke a few years back in Ramadan. And mashallah, we had Sheikh Haidar Mawla, who was reciting that night in Arabic. And I used to love to listen to his lectures in Arabic. He was a beautiful reciter. So I used to have a habit that after I speak my English, I give my English lecture, I would sit and I would listen to him. That evening, it was a packed house, alhamdulillah. That evening, I felt extremely hot. For some odd reason, it wasn't really hot in the room, but I just felt an enormous amount of heat. And I said, I have to get out of this room right now. And I walked out and I went outside. And outside there were a few brothers standing, and this brother, was standing outside with his friends. And he from far approached me. Apparently he was listening to the lectures. He came to me, shook hands with me in a very civil manner. He says, can I ask you a few questions? I'm a Christian, but I like your lectures. I want to ask more questions to you. I said, sure. And we got into a conversation. It started with about 5 people. It grew to over 100 people. There was a huge circle standing there. Everybody was listening into this conversation between me and him. Look, history in the making. Subhanallah. And I stood there, held his hands, and as we were talking, I would touch his shoulder. I said, you have a good point. And he would bring an argument about the Bible, and I would counter it from the Bible. And I'd say, look, every argument I've given you, you take it to your superiors. Check it. If it's wrong, I'll meet you again, and you can correct me. He said, okay. And we discussed. And it was the most beautiful night, subhanAllah. Outside, it was warm outside. It was crowded. It was quiet. I held his hand, he looked at me, and I felt this sincerity in his heart. He looked at me, and he said, what you're saying makes sense. I said, it's up to you, do what you want. We shook hands and we left. In Muharram, I came to speak again, and I was speaking at Fordson. And my first lecture, I remember, Fordson High School. I got off my first lecture, I got off the stage, and this boy came and shook my hands. And I shook hands with him, I said, George. He says, you remember my name? I said, yeah, I remember your name. His name was George. He shook my hands, he says, no, my name is not George. My name is Abbas. He shook hands with me, he hugged me, he says, my name is not George anymore, my name is Abbas. I said, really? MashaAllah, subhanallah. I said, why did you choose the name Abbas? He said, Abbas helped the Imam. I want to help Islam. I want to help the Imams. That's why I said, here's a young 17-year-old Christian boy who's become a believer overnight. It's not me. People ask, have you made people Muslims? I said, I'm still trying to make myself a better Muslim, so please. Allah inspires, but it takes a collection of people to get together, and each one instills the goodness in their hearts. You see, this is very important in our communities, even among our non-Christian, our own brothers and sisters. Let's be nice to each other, care for each other, show love and affection to each other the way our Imams showed us, and see how we will change each other. This young boy became a Muslim, and he attended our camp. He was so helpful, and every time I would get into gatherings, he would be there, and he was one of the sharpest persons I ever met. Sharp philosopher, really understood the dimensions of deen, but if you listen to him, he would always quote the Quran and al-Bayt. Quran and al-Bayt. I said, look at this boy, how he has grounded himself by the same command the Prophet left. Inni tarikun fikum al-thaqalain, kitabullah wa itrati al-Bayt. Subhanallah. This is a boy 14 centuries later. One event touches his heart so much, he's become a believer. Now in his family, he wasn't accepted as a Muslim, so he was silent. Imagine his struggles. Imagine his struggles, brothers and sisters, that you and I, it's very interesting. Many times people say, so did this person become a Muslim? When you talk to him, did he become a Muslim? People ask me, when you spoke to Dan Barker in this debate between the atheist and yourself, did he become a Muslim? I said, what's the difference, whether he became a... No, I'm curious to know. I said, what if he did? Oh, I'd be so happy. I said, okay, you'd be happy? Think about it. And that's a great thing. All of us should be happy. How much are we willing to change for a few things in our house? If I speak to my brothers and sisters and say, brother, let's change this. Well, my family is not like that. It has a bad habit. And if I do this, it'll be very difficult. And my life will be very difficult. And then I will lose my friends. But we are all eager to see non-Muslims become Muslims. You think it's a joke for them to become Muslims? They have families. They have societies. They have ways of lives too. They have to abandon all of that to become Muslims. And we're all smiling. Yet for us to change a little bit of Islam, we give 1,000 excuses. Look at the rationale. When someone says, why don't we become better? Well, I have a lot of problems. If I wear hijab, my family will come against me. But how about that person who reverted to Islam? Really? MashaAllah. MashaAllah what? That person has gone through hell to become a Muslim. He is a role model for you and me. That to become a Muslim from non-Muslim is the most difficult thing to do. Let us make it easy for them. That's why my honor goes out to such people. That while the family is against you, they are silent in their hearts, vibrating towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their iman is towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I believe Allah loved him so much